Morning, guys. This morning we're in the beautiful surroundings of Morgan's Army's head office in Gosainen, and it's always as if it's meant for the sun to shine because it's a beautiful morning here. And I'm sat with Natalie, the co-founder of Morgan's Army, along with her husband Matt and daughter Rhiannon, of course. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here with this morning. Before we touch on Morgan's Army and Morgan's legacy, of course, perhaps it'd be appropriate just for me to explain why RCS is here with you this morning, because I know that you have been a massive supporter from the offset of the community, as you prefer to call it, Morgan's Army, and you've supported RCS from day one. Not quite sure if it's because of Simon Hayden and your affection of him, because he's a wonderful guy and a fabulous designer for us. But yeah, we thank you for that. The support has been tremendous, and of course RCS has supported you and will continue to support you, so we thank you for that. Morgan's Army was founded by yourself, sadly because you lost your son Morgan to cancer. And I think the strength that you and your family have shown through all this is quite incredible. But before we go into what you do as an army, perhaps you'd just like to tell us what sort of a child Morgan was. And I know he had a fascination for fast cars and so forth, so why don't you tell us a little bit about Morgan?
Absolutely. Well, Morgan was born in July 2019, and from the offset he was a very, very happy baby, very easygoing. He didn't sleep much, but he wasn't much of a crier. He just liked to be awake and see what was going on. He always had to be involved in everything. And when Morgan was 9 months old, we went into lockdown. So we had a lot of time at home with him, which was, in hindsight, a blessing now.
Of course.
But very isolating being away from your family. But through all that, and we had a beautiful summer that year as well, so we had a nice time out in the garden. But he was just an absolute joy and always happy, and every day waking up to him was a pleasure, truly, because he was just such a happy baby. And his sister then was born in April 2021, just as we were coming out of lockdown properly. So she's not quite a COVID baby. But Morgan just absolutely adored her from the start. He was obsessed with that child, and wherever she was, he had to be. And she was 5 months old when he was diagnosed with cancer, just before his second birthday. And life went from being this really quiet and family orientated time to being thrust into a world of medical jargon and being back and forth to the hospital in Cardiff, because any children that are treated for cancer in South Wales have to travel to Cardiff for treatment in the National Children's Hospital. And Morgan took it all in his stride, really, because he was just happy to be there, alive, wherever he was, as long as he was with people. He was really quite personable in that way, and all the way through his treatment, he always had a smile for the nurses. Even after they'd done something horrible to him that he hated, he always managed to turn around and give them a high five and forgive them very, very quickly and give them a smile. So he always inspired me in that way, that if he could sit through all that treatment and not kind of lose his lust for life, really, then we couldn't either. So we kind of let him drag us all the way through his treatment and just followed his lead, really. He was such a bright child. I'm not sure if he was the most intelligent child, but he took after his dad in that way, kind of a do first and think later sort of individual. I think he would have made a fantastic front row forward like his dad. He would have been head first in everywhere, and probably given away lots of penalties and all sorts for being a little bit slapdash, but he just enjoyed being alive, and I still carry that with me now in what we do and all the opportunities we give Rhiannon and the things that we do with our personal life, not just the charity, because he went through hell and he still turned around and smiled at the end of it. So I think we have a lot to learn from kids.
You must get an awful lot of strength from that, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I think even I'm just looking at pictures of him. There aren't, there's a few pictures of him not looking very well, and those few days in his final days when he was, nearing the end of his life. Even then, he still had the energy right up until the end, really. And I just think that children are so resilient, and we can learn so much from them as adults. And that's what I always try and remember, rather than living in the shadow of losing him, is living in the light of having had him.
Of course, and we remember the day of the fast supercars turning up outside your house. That must have been incredible.
Well, they shut the M4 that day.
Really?
Yeah, we had a phone call from the police when the M4 shut, because
Wow.
there were 7,000 vehicles in the ride out that week.
It's incredible.
I don't think they've seen anything like it before, and they haven't seen anything
Again.
since, and I'm pretty sure South Wales Police are probably glad of that. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
they were brilliant, to be fair. They supported it as best they could, but people just wanted to come together as a community across South Wales to show love for one little boy. But I think it was bigger than that, really. It was the army, because we had documented Morgan's journey on a page called Morgan's Army. That's before it was even founded as a charity, and people really got behind this idea that, especially post-COVID, of what we could do for each other as a community. And even from afar, you could be there for people. You could show up in ways that people hadn't thought of before, and that's what Morgan inspired in people. So I think since then we've just carried on gathering and gaining support and momentum, simply because people are sitting there going, I can do more than just donate money. I can be involved in a community and be involved in these events and show our support for all these children and families going through a horrible time in their lives, really.
And quite often that's the most important thing. So when sadly you were going through this horrendous time in your life, of course you had support from family and friends, but what about the professional side of it? The professional support that you received, was that?
We did receive brilliant support from Latch Children's Cancer Charity that are based in the hospital in Cardiff, Noah's Ark Hospital Charity, and Ronald McDonald House, which is where we lived while Morgan was in treatment. So they provided free accommodation to parents just opposite the hospital, and that's where Rhiannon learned to crawl and walk and said all her first words. But it meant that we could stay together as a family, and they're all fantastic organisations. There is just so much work to do for families like ours. It was more that, obviously Matthew's a solicitor and I'm a physiotherapist. I've got 2 degrees. We'd worked our ways up quite well into our careers before we decided to have children, and we had a house and 2 cars and everything that we'd worked hard for, and we had a comfortable life, and we'd worked for that. But overnight, because I couldn't work, because I had to be at Morgan's side all the time, and obviously the turmoil of it all, like our income dropped by about 3/4 just simply overnight, and we still had the house, the cars, and there was just so much stress involved in that, and no support available because we don't qualify for benefits because we had jobs.
Yeah, that's quite possibly what people don't actually see is the financial side of it. Of course, people recognise the trauma that you're going through, but the financial side of it must be so difficult, and hence no doubt that was your reasoning to carry Morgan's legacy on, was to bring attention to childhood cancer and the difficulties that brings financially, and of course you're getting rewarded by what you're doing. So if you could just touch on how Morgan's Army, and obviously it's predominantly awareness for childhood cancer, but how do you support, is it both financially and comforting support that you offer? So just tell us a little bit on what you do through the community.
Yeah, so what we recognised were gaps potentially caused by COVID at the time. Morgan was receiving treatment during COVID. We were all isolated in treatment rooms, and Morgan wasn't allowed to go into the playroom with other children because that simply just wasn't allowed at the time due to the lockdown rules.
You realise that, do you?
Yeah, and I think I cheered other parents online that were taught that I was speaking to and trying to connect to about their experiences, and they'd had a completely different experience to us because they were able to interact with other parents on the ward and receive that peer support from people who understand, because it's really difficult when you've got friends at home that don't understand the medical jargon you're going through, and sometimes it's exhausting when people are like, well, what does that mean, and what does that mean, and where are you going to do this, and how does this work, and it's something that becomes so normal to you, all that medical jargon and procedures, that having to explain it every single time was just, you just didn't have the brain space for it. And sometimes connecting with other parents, when you could moan about, oh, you know, Morgan's neutropenic again, and they go, oh no, not again, sort of thing, you know, they could connect with you in a way that felt a lot less effortful, and that didn't exist when Morgan was first treated. But as we were opened up into allowing to see each other again, I really found strength in kind of existing with the other parents on the ward, being able to talk to them, being able to share our stories and shared experiences, and being able to lean on them and to be able to be there for them as well. And I saw the real value in that. So when we first started out, I really wanted to make sure we provided opportunities for parents to come together and for children to come together with other siblings and other children that were just like them, really. And since COVID in the hospitals, I don't think the hospitals have ever really recovered from those strict rules and things that had to be in place, because obviously more things have come to the forefront in terms of hospital-borne infections and people who have low immune systems. There is still a lot of isolation when you're actually in hospital. So one of our main arms is peer support. We have regular peer support events for parents just on their own so they can have a break. We have events for children with cancer, and we also have a massive support programme for siblings. We allow siblings to come together, just them, because they take a back seat really to the child with treatment, and they have to, and many of them do it without complaining, but they still have to go to school, they still have to exist in a world where they have the same worries in a different way. And I've watched Rhiannon grieve for Morgan and the things that she's missing, and she sees other people with siblings, and she has to process all that, and she needs a group of people who understand that around her. So peer support is massively important to helping people make sure they don't feel alone. And the financial side of things, then we fill the gaps. So there's lots of support offered by some brilliant charities out there that all work in like the acute setting, in the hospital. So Latch are there, Ronald McDonald's House are there, and they do provide financial support. But sometimes there are gaps that those charities can't meet, and that's where we exist to bridge the gap. So we offer personalised grants, so they're not set. People come to us with a problem, and as trustees we sit down to discuss how we can best help that problem. Sometimes it means going to other people in our community and saying, can you help this family in particular? A recent example of that is where Oil for Wales have come and helped us supply oil for some families who just couldn't afford to heat their homes in the cold weather snap, and that didn't cost us any money as a charity because they stepped up and said, we will help you with that.
It's quite wonderful how people actually do come forward, and especially in our community. I mean, people are so generous. And,
absolutely.
So you've had many events to date. I've attended a couple myself, and that one in Llanad Vineyards will stick in my memory forever, probably. I don't suppose there's such a thing as a favourite event, but to date, what sticks in your mind the most?
It's a really difficult one because they all have such different things that I love about them. I do love our annual ball because it's an opportunity for us to we have 4 or 5 parent tables, so parents from the ward are invited, they're given heavily discounted tickets, and they're part of the evening because it's all about them really.
Of course.
But it's so lovely to see them just have a night where they maybe just forget about it for just a little bit, and they're with people who understand that. And they're also surrounded by all our community of supporters and sponsors who are there for them as well. So it really feels like they're being held up. And I enjoy celebrating everything that we've achieved over a year. And looking back sometimes, I'm always just a little bit in awe that we've actually managed to achieve all these things. I couldn't do it without our amazing trustees and the businesses that back us, really. And of course, the community of supporters that come together. But I think last year when we did our first Walk to Heaven, which was a pilgrimage of sorts, so building funds for our specific bereavement box fund, where we send boxes to families who have lost a child or young person It's usually a couple of weeks after the funeral when everything's settled down and life seems to go back to normal for everyone around you, but not for the people who are still in bereavement. So we like to send them something just to let them know that they're still thought of and their child is still thought of and remembered, and that, you know, we are still thinking of them.
Of course.
So the Walk to Heaven was designed to kind of get us all together to remember people that we've lost, not just from cancer. People were walking for family members they'd lost 10, 20 years ago, and some were walking for family members they'd lost 5 months before.
Well, it's what's important to them, I guess, isn't it, at the end of the day? So yes, we've spoken about the ones that have gone. So what have you got coming up?
Well, we've got the 10K coming up soon in a couple of weeks, so that's on April 12th, and it was an amazing event last year.
Yeah.
So we've bought the event from Frontrunner. It's now run as a not-for-profit race.
Yeah.
Massive community event. We had 900 runners last year.
Fantastic.
And 200 in the 2K for families, which is really nice to see all the kids come out and join in and get a medal and feel that sense of achievement. But the feeling that was out there on that day was incredible, and I just remember walking around Gosainen the rest of the day. All the pubs were full, all the restaurants were booked out, everyone had their 10K t-shirts on and their medals proudly, and what a community focused day. And we raised £14,000 that day, and it was shared with the Jacob Crane Foundation last year,
of course. And
this year we're working with T Havan Children's Hospice, so it's nice to be able to give something back. We work closely with them anyway, but it's nice to be able to get them involved in one of our events. That's where Morgan passed away, and they have been amazing. You know, it's really nice to see all those families come out. So it's not just for children and young people with cancer, it's for children with short lives that T Havan supports. So it's coming together for a wide range of families. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I just really hope that the weather stays good for that, because it was beautiful last year.
And it does make a difference, doesn't it?
It does.
It does make
People were out all day because it was just,
of course,
it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure Morgan had a hand in that, because he always likes to make sure the sun shines.
Undoubtedly. Yes, indeed. You're incredibly brave.
Thank you very much.
You are an incredibly brave person, along with your family, of course. Morgan's Army is a true inspiration. Do you get enough volunteers? Is there any plea we'd like to make for volunteers?
We always have pleas for volunteers. There's
Come on then, guys.
To do with these events.
Volunteers.
Especially the Gosainen 10K. It's a lovely day to come out for. It's 3 hours of your time on a Sunday morning. We'll give you a bacon roll.
Now then, bacon rolls.
Or a vegetarian alternative.
Yes, good.
But it's a fantastic day to get involved with, and I think so many runners are so pleased to be there running. It's a lovely course. We've got some good elite runners coming out this year, so it's going to be a bit competitive, I think.
Oh, look out then.
But it's a lovely day, and I'm really looking forward to that. So we're building to that now. Our ball finished a couple of weeks ago, so now it's full steam ahead for the 10K, really.
Well, you're doing magnificent work.
Thank you very much.
Long may Morgan's Army continue, and the legacy of Morgan
Absolutely.
will carry on forever and a day, I'm sure. It's inspiring speaking to you. Thank you so much, and I really feel I need to give you a hug. Is that okay?
Yes, of course you can. Thank you.
I am.
Diolch.
Well done.